We have just come out of the first place called SCUMO with some absolute used bargains for March 2023's used PC Parts Hunt of the month. First off, we got a GTX 1080. Looks like it's in immaculate condition, and they're asking $135 for this, so I said, yep, we'll put that in the Tech Yes stash. And then the next deal we got was a GTX 970 that also looked like it was in really good condition. Now, we got this for $60. However, these two deals, we also get a warranty from these places, so if there is something wrong with them, we can bring them back. Now, I do apologize as well for not uploading content sooner. I have had some really bad allergies, and it's just absolutely blasted me in the last month, but we're finally making a return to the content. So if you do enjoy this kind of stuff, make sure you hit that like button. But there's also two more deals in the kitty here, and that is two i7 4000 series CPUs. Now the prices have come down drastically on these CPUs to the point where you can pick them up now for half the price of i7 6700s. However, from here on in, we are going to be doing something a little unusual to the usual used PC parts hunt. That is, we're going to go through Tokyo here, Akihabara, and check out all the prices of new parts, because I want to remap my brain with all the prices of new stuff and see if prices are coming down, and then we can compare that to the used prices and see if they're coming down or going up. So let's go hit two new places right now and see what the deal is.
Never pay full price for Windows 10 or 11 again. With today's video sponsor SCD Keys, you can get activated for as little as $15 using that coupon BFTYC. Links in the description below.
So we just come out of two different stores now for new PC parts, and the first was Buy More, and they were a bit of a bust. They didn't really have any good prices on new things there, and also their used deals were really mediocre. So when the deals aren't that good, of course, at Tech Yes City, we just give those deals a pass. But then we went to the other SCUMO store, so there's actually more SCUMO stores in Aki, and this one's got all the new parts. And so we went up to the CPU and motherboard section, and they're actually really good deals up on this floor, where we ended up scoring a B450 motherboard and also a Ryzen 5 4500. Now you're probably thinking Ryzen 5 4500, ew, it's a bad CPU, but when you're getting the motherboard and the CPU brand new with a cooler for $130, you can't complain. So actually, this CPU, I've been really curious to check out its performance, especially with a mid-range graphics card, maybe like an RX 6600, and just see what kind of performance you can get at 1080p. So we've got that in the kitty, but there's also some really good deals coming up on pretty much CPUs and motherboards in general, especially on Intel 12th gen and 600 series motherboards. So do keep an eye out for that. But in terms of graphics cards, the current 3000 series prices are really mediocre here. I mean, the RTX 3060 Ti still looks like it's the best value card from the new graphics cards out at the moment, but hopefully the RTX 4070 does change all that and bring prices down of both new and used graphics cards, at least from what I'm seeing right now. But what we'll do right now is go and tour now all the used deals and see what else we can come up with. So we now just finished up with two different used parts stores, one called DOS Paradise, the other called Softmap. And both of these places just had absolute bust after bust when it came to the used GPU deals, the used CPUs, the used motherboards. And in fact, what I'm seeing right here with GPUs, it's actually a pretty weird time to buy, because I'm seeing the new prices. In fact, at the last Softmap that we took a look at, the RTX 3060 Ti was the best price I've seen for a new GPU yet, coming just under MSRP. So the used deals are really too close to the prices of the new deals, and it's making it so that those prices will come down, when we factor in the tech yes-onomics. Now, we'll talk about that a little bit later in this video, but all we need to know for now is that RTX 4070 is around the corner, and these prices are just too high on these used parts, coupled in with the M2 money supply right now actually going down. But again, more in depth a little bit later. Let's go hit up this next store right here, which is Junk Paradise, and there's actually a few of these in Akihabara. So we're gonna do a Junk Paradise tour, see if they've got the deals that we wanna score.
So are we lovers? The question you're evading, yeah.
So we just finished up at that Junk Paradise, and they had a deal that I was certainly happy to walk away with, and that was a Ryzen 5 1400. And I know some of you guys will think, Ryan, that thing is a snail by today's standards. But hear me out, hear me out. It was a little over 30 USD, 4 cores, 8 threads, and it's coming in at a similar price to that i7 4770 that we just got. So I'm thinking a showdown here on the rock bottom budget side of things. But also the thing about these 4-core, 8-thread old school CPUs is that they can still play all those really popular titles. I mean, Dota 2 is gonna run fine, CSGO, Apex Legends, and even CS2 will look like it will run fine on these 4-core, 8-thread CPUs. But in terms of GPUs, they also had RTX 3090s, and this is the cheapest I have seen 3090s in Japan in terms of yen value. But in the last few months, before I went back to Australia and came back here, the yen has since appreciated versus the US dollar. So in US dollar terms, those 3090s have really kind of stayed around the same price used. And of course, that 4070 factor, that is going to be a big talking point for the next few months. So we're really going to see how that shakes up the GPU market. But let's get on now to the next few used parts stores and see what deals they've got banging. And we just finished up at that next Junk Paradise, and we did end up with 2 deals coming out of this store, but there was also a potential third deal, but it ended up being the most suspicious deal I have ever heard of, especially coming out of a retail store. But let's talk about these first 2 deals first. GTX 1070 looked like it was in immaculate condition. They allowed me to see the card, and before I bought it, the condition of it looked really good, and that was roughly $110. So we snapped that up. Really good deal. Then we looked at the i7 2600K, and I mean, this thing would have to be the fastest depreciating tech item I have seen in the tech space in the last few years. I mean, these things used to go for around 70 bucks. Now it's going for a little over $20. And at this price, this thing will serve really well for super budget, low-end systems. But next up here, we had this 2080 Ti. And this thing was the cheapest price I've ever seen a 2080 Ti go for on the used market. But then on the label, it said there was problems where it was only running from 2 PCIe lanes and there was some other damage to the card. And I just asked the person, look, can I take it out of the box before I buy it and just check it out? And they said, no, you can't take this out of the box. It's staying in the box. And I'm just thinking to myself, well, that is just really suspect. And they're basically like, look, there's no warranty on this thing, so once you buy it from us, you're on your own. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, this thing just sounds like the biggest hose job in the making, especially since they let me check out the other GPU. So I thought that was really suspect. Anyhow, it is starting to get a little bit dark here. It's still coming out of winter, so we are going to move on to the last store on the way back, and that is a bust off. And just to check if prices have somewhat come down, maybe they've got some bargain in there or something like that. But fingers crossed, but I know my luck with hard off, it's always been pretty bad. And we're back at the Tech Yes studio the next day, and we've tested out all 3 of these graphics cards, and there's some great news. Not only is there no problems whatsoever with these cards, we've also got some generous room on the core clock slider as well as the memory clock slider, meaning that I think personally they've got quite a bit of life left in all three of these cards. Not to mention that they all look like they're in immaculate condition. One thing that I'm kind of sad about doing parts hunts in Japan is that the parts are all clean. I don't have to clean any of them up, and the prices are actually really good. I mean, for instance, if I was to buy a GTX 1080 locally in Australia, and I know for a fact I definitely have to do two things, and that is clean it up and then change the thermal paste and the thermal pads on the GPU. But all three of these cards are really clean. The temperatures are actually really good too. In the case of this palette GTX 970, this thing was running under 50 degrees, albeit I did manually set the fan speeds in just over 60%, but that was while I was overclocking the GPU core and memory. But I'm really surprised at how clean and well presented these cards are when they're sold to the public. Now, another thing is too, I did check the online prices for especially GPUs. That's the main thing I like to track, because what I'm finding is the CPU market, we'll get onto that in a little bit, but the GPU market with the RTX 3000 series cards, Tokyo is really reflecting those prices that I'm seeing online, especially the cheapest RTX 3060 Ti I can find, for example, as well as the cheapest RTX 3080. They're really coming out those prices on the shelves in Tokyo, and I'd much rather buy something in person, especially from these stores where you've got a warranty. If any of these cards, they come back here and they're bad, I can just take them back to the store, get a full refund. So that in itself is a great middle ground, especially if you're just getting into used PC parts hunting. I think Japan's going to be one of the best places in the world to do it. As opposed to Australia, I've got to go to people's places, make sure they're guaranteeing the stuff before they sell it. And even then, occasionally once in a blue moon, the part will get home, it's faulty, it's got a problem, and then I got to take it back to that person's place and get a refund. But actually, speaking of that event, it did happen with the GTX 970 while I was back in Australia a couple of months ago. So that actually happened really recently, where I did get a refund and they did say the product was working, but the card went up in smoke. So the GPUs, great news there. The CPU market, this one is really crazy, where I'm finding anything $100 and under can be extremely good value. We've got three i7s here, albeit they're pretty old, and we've got a Ryzen 5 1400, but the prices we're paying for those things are just dirt cheap. Then we've got the Ryzen 5 4500, which I'm extremely curious to check out, especially coupled in with this extremely cheap B450 motherboard. Now, I'm not expecting too much out of it. I mean, as long as this thing can lock in XMPs, even 3200 megahertz memory, and it just runs fine, then I'll actually be very happy, because this could be a great recommendation for people just looking to start out and build a used PC. So energy's coming back here at Tech Yes City. I'm gonna start getting into the budget end, because I think that it's going to matter more than ever going forward, especially, and this is where we're going to tie in the Tech Yes-onomics for you guys, especially when we look at the M2 money supply. That's actually contracting at the moment, as well as the US interest that the government's paying on the debt. That's going up, and then the banks are getting richer. So essentially we've got money being destroyed, banks are getting richer in the process, and at the very least at least the smart banks, the ones that didn't go and do stupid things like SVB, Silicon Valley Bank. However, those ingredients do spell what I believe will be a drop in prices, at least until the Fed decides to turn on the printers again. And in that case, I think when they decide to do that, inflation is just going to get out of control. I think up until that point, you're going to see prices still continue to come down, but as soon as the Federal Reserve America starts the printers up again, I think it's game over. So do not fear, guys, when that day comes, I'll be definitely giving you guys coverage. And who knows, maybe at Tech Yes City, I might just do a complete pivot in terms of content. Though what I've got for you guys right here is a tally of around $580. I'll put that up on the screen for you, both in yen prices and United States dollars. Do let us know in the comment section below, what was your favorite deal here of today? Now that said, I am waiting a little bit, especially with this 4070 release around the corner. I think this is definitely going to shake up the market, and then after that, you're probably going to have the 4060 or 4060 Ti and 4050s. Those cards are going to shake up the market too, and then we've got AMD. They're yet to respond, but they're definitely going to have to respond. So it looks like the new prices this year are going to be putting a lot of pressure on the used prices. The one more thing I forgot to mention with CPUs, it's a very weird scenario where I'm liking $100 and under on the used market, but anything over that, for instance, I saw i7 8700s and they're going for around $140, and I'm thinking to myself, why would you buy that when you can just spend a little bit more and get some of those better CPUs out there at the moment. For instance, Ryzen 5 5600, or go out and spend a little bit more, get an i5 13500 or a 13600K, or even recently I heard reports of the 12700KF going as low as $230. So I think under $100, great for used CPUs, but over that, I definitely keep your eyes peeled for what's on the new market, where the sales seem to be extremely good right now for new CPUs. In terms of new GPUs, give that a couple of months and I think there'll be a lot of pressure coming, at least to those higher end cards. And what we're seeing here is I'm just picking up a lot of these lower end cards where there's really not a whole lot more to lose. Their price performance is already phenomenal at what I'm getting them for. Anyway, guys, with all that aside, I hope you enjoyed this month's used PC parts hunt of the month. I am sorry that it is late this month. Well, actually next month, which is meant to be last month, but my health really sort of has been up and down the last few months. I am getting on top of it. I have gone to the doctors and the allergies were out of control, and I had this infection around like my beard, and it was just really, really bizarre. So I've been getting it checked out in depth. Preliminary results, I'm kind of not really going to go into it too much, but it's not too concerning right now. But again, when it comes to health, I do take these things seriously. I'm going to get on top of it all. And I've already, in the last week, like drastically changed my whole lifestyle in terms of I'm exercising every day now. Every day I'm exercising. And I wake up in the morning, it's like vegetables. And then midday, it's like either yogurt, nuts, or vegetables. And so I'm changing my diet completely to just give my body the best chance to get better right now. So hopefully going forward, my health can get back to 100% as soon as possible to give you guys the content that you all love and you all deserve as well, especially the Tech Yes citizens. And do let us know in the comment section below if there's anything else on your mind. I love reading those thoughts and opinions. Just like this question of the day here, which comes from Extermino Dord Communatos 5620. And they ask, can I use the Ultra HD 730 Intel graphics, that's the onboard graphics on the CPU, for recording and streaming, and my 6700 XT only for gaming? AMD encoder, it's awful. So when it comes to this, unfortunately with the UHD 730, it's only got one multiple streaming encodec, at least what I see on the website. So you'll want to do, if you want to stream and encode for streaming as well as encode for recording, say just the gameplay footage without your camera and stuff over the top of it, you would actually need to get the UHD 770. That's got two multiple streaming engines in it. So you've only got one there. So what you'll have to do if you do want to get the gameplay footage is perhaps just stream and then save that stream to a MP4 file, and then you can use your RX 6700 XT just for gaming. But in terms of trying to get them to use them both simultaneously, you may come into some problems there. Just with two different drivers encoding at the same time. Though in terms of a CPU that has the UHD 770, the cheapest off the top of my head would be the i5 13500, which the 13400 doesn't have that. Anyhow, hope that answers that question. I'll catch you guys in another tech video very soon. If you've stayed this far and you're enjoying that Tech Yes content, then be sure to hit that sub button, ring that bell, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out for now. Bye.